Hello, everyone. It is WNBA with Shay, and I'm doing a live stream with South basketball. Starts with a 5, though.
You can call me Peter
You can
Kelly
call,
for this.
you can call him Peter. That's probably easier. And yeah, we're going to be talking about the Atlanta Dream, so that's going to be really fun. I did a bunch of work on this today, so I'm really excited to talk about the Atlanta Dream. How you doing today, Peter?
I'm doing well. I mean, hanging in there. I'm excited to talk about basketball. I'll say that much.
Yeah, there you go. So you know what? Let's just get into it. So Atlanta Dream. Well, actually, is there anything you want to plug first? I guess I should ask that.
Yeah. I'm a relatively new writer about the WNBA. I'm writing for my website is 5outbasketball.com. The website is FIVE. Feel free to follow me at 5outbasketball with the number 5. My name is Peter. So that's about it.
Very cool. And how long have you been following?
I've been following the league closely for 3 years. Before that, I would follow the playoffs and the regular season more haphazardly.
Nice. And you're not really like an Atlanta fan specifically, right?
No, I definitely believe in liberated fandom, the idea that you just root for teams that are fun and players that are fun and just watch the whole league. And I think Atlanta this upcoming year is going to be very high on my list of league pass teams.
Yeah. So let's just I'm gonna jump into it now. So they came in dead last year, 8-26, not great, obviously. The team really struggled to put the ball in the basket. Their offensive rating was the worst in the league by 5 points at 91.6. Dallas had 96.7. So that's really bad. It is not statistically significant, though. I did look it up. And they took the most number of three-pointers and had the worst percentage at 29% as a team. And so, the next team, Mercury, with their three-pointers had 32.5%. I mean, it's just they couldn't put the ball in the basket when they were guarded, when they were unguarded. Obviously, then their assist numbers, I think, really was related to that. They weren't good either. Even from the free throw line, they were struggling. They weren't as bad as the Sun, but, it was just, I think they shot 75%.
Wow.
And on defense, they also struggled. Anything you want to say about the team overall? What I just said about their defense, about their offense?
Yeah, they really were tested. They played the style they played wasn't as bad as the results. Like, they got up a fair amount of threes and were trying to attack the rim, but they were consistently basically only playing Renee Montgomery as a consistent three-point shooter.
Yeah.
And it's just really hard in the modern basketball and the modern WNBA to survive when you're with, one 3-point player. I looked back like the last 5 years and I could find one team, the San Antonio Stars from a few years ago, that were worse. So they weren't just bad, like relative to the league last year. They were one of the worst in the last, in recent memory.
Yeah, that's really not great. And on the Double Down, they just released their podcast on the Atlanta Dream. So it made me think of they made me realize what the Dream were kind of trying to do last year. They were really relying on pick and rolls. They did that 34% of the time. So a third of the time they're relying on pick and rolls to get their points. A lot of spot ups. They were 12th in the league in efficiency with their spot ups. Not too much in transition. They were pretty bad in transition. They were the worst in the league, actually. I actually made a graphic about it a few weeks ago. They had the second least number of possessions in transition and had the worst efficiency shooting there. So
yeah,
it was that was a nightmare. And I think they'll be a little bit better this year, but we'll talk about that in a second. Yeah, and they took no post-ups too. I mean, that's what really stuck out to me with their plan last year. What do you think about that?
I think that made sense. I mean, I think the pick and rolls made sense. I think trying to score on spot ups, they don't have anybody who, at the time, they didn't have anybody who particularly was efficient in post ups. Posting up isn't particularly efficient in general. relative to pick and rolls. Generally, the points per play is quite a bit lower. But so they'd run a decent pick and roll, but then, they're if except for Renee Montgomery's defender, every other defender would crash into the paint. So you end up with a lot of plays where there's 4 or 5, opponents in the paint, and it's just really hard for players like Tiffany Hayes, who are good slashers, but they can only. It's really hard to score with 3 or 4 defenders.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it was they really struggled last year, and I don't think we really need to beat a dead horse here.
No.
So then let's just move on to their draft picks. So they got Carter in the first round, obviously at 4. Brewer, I think they got 5th in the second round. Pivick in the third round, and then Thornton, Kobe Thornton in the third round. I don't think we're going to be talking much about her. But I know you want to talk about Carter, and of course I want to also, but I will give you the time to talk about her.
Yep. So I had Kennedy Carter above Lauren Cox in my drafting, so I think it was really cool that she fell to her. She has the potential to be sort of the modern basketball guard who can shoot threes off the dribble, who can penetrate and finish against length. I was really impressed in the game against the Team USA. She was able to score over and around Sylvia Fowles and against Nafisa Collier. And that was on a team with much less shooting and spacing than she'll find in a good WNBA offense. The shot was a little hit or miss, particularly last year, but if you look back a few years, it was better. And even without the shot, I think she still has the potential to be effective. It'll limit her ceiling, but she'll still be a decent player.
Yeah, I think she can get into the paint well. She can take people one-on-one. That's really great. I mean, they have a little bit of that already in Hayes and Courtney, but we'll also get more into that. What puzzled me a lot was her 3-point shooting in college. So as a junior, so this year, she took 83 attempts and shot 25%. Not a huge volume, but 83% is a pretty good amount. But the years before, she took 165 2 years ago at 35%, and the year before that she took 180 at 38%. So she went down in attempts and down in efficiency, which was really weird. And I'm not sure if I was thinking that, and all these stats are from her hoop stats. So I think maybe they might include the Final Four or the tournament. And so, she missed a couple games there, but still 83 attempts compared to 160 or 180. She wasn't going to make up those 100 or 50 shots there. So in those couple of games that she didn't end up playing. So I'm really confused why she took fewer shots and why her efficiency went down. What do you think of that?
She did miss a few games with an injury during the season, so that probably accounts for some of it.
Yeah.
But I didn't watch her play in prior years. I only watched really this year, so I'm not.
Gotcha. Yeah. And yeah, her what is it? Wow, I can't even remember the name. Effective field goal percentage was also a little bit weird, but she had a lot fewer attempts this year, just field goals attempts in general. She went down. Her freshman year, she was 673 attempts. Her sophomore year, she was 591, and this year she was only 434. So I'm just confused of why she was taking fewer shots. Or why her team and her coach. Okay, sure, the injury. I don't know how much that affected her and how many games she played. So I guess that's a factor, but maybe she was she was clearly more of a distributor as time went on. So it seems as that's the case. So maybe that's good for her preparation for the league, because a lot of people are talking, and we'll get into this, that she's not going to be taking a huge role as holding the ball. She's more of an offense initiator. So we'll see what happens there. Anything else about Carter you want to say?
The other thing I was really impressed with by her, her offensive game gets the attention and is where She has the highest potential, but she's a good defender. She's an amazing athlete. I think she'll step onto a court and be one of the better athletes in the WNBA from the beginning. In that Team USA game, she blocked Sylvia Fowles from behind, and she had a block on Nafisa Collier that was pretty impressive. She definitely her effort level was a little up and down, but I think that partially came because she was most of the offense.
Right.
And so, and obviously young players, I mean, she has a chance, you know, I assume she'll, you know, lock in more at the professional level. The other thing I just quickly looked, she did 2 years ago, she played 36 games. Last year she played 23, and her minutes per game were down.
Interesting.
From
Yeah.
like last year, she played 35 minutes per game. This year, only 30. So that might be some of where her fewer attempts came.
Yeah, that makes sense. I probably should have looked at that while doing my research, but I didn't. So here we are. Did you look at Brewer at all? Brittany Brewer. I think that's her name, Brittany. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, Brittany Brewer, 6'5". She went to Texas Tech, and so I was not huge on her with the film that I was watching. She posts up a lot, so that's something that Atlanta might want to be investing in. However, I think she's going to take some time adjusting, because like when I would, like even in college, in the college game, I saw her kind of fading away and not drawing that contact that I see the best professional centers doing. So I'm a little bit concerned there. And you know, it takes some time to develop, and I'm fine with that. The other thing that I saw, well, actually, I'll let you go, and I'll add more points after your initial thoughts.
So I think for her, it's going to be a question of if she can improve that 3-point shot and become a stretch five. She had a couple games against Baylor. She went like 3 for 6 in a matchup with Lauren Cox and hit a few threes. And but that wasn't the case over the course of the year. She wasn't a particularly effective 3-point shooter because she does block a lot of shots.
Yeah.
She's one of the nation's leading shot blockers, and it looked like she played pretty good position defense, even when she couldn't block shots. And so it'll be a question of can she, because I don't think her post game will translate as well to the next level.
For sure. Yeah. I totally agree. I thought what was weird about her, like one thing that just like was so weird was her shot. Like she's a lefty, by the way, and like so what happens is she brings the ball across her forehead to the right side of her head, and it's just like the wonkiest looking thing. Especially when she like pivots, if she's on her left pivot foot and pivots backwards, and then pulls up. It's just like really contorted looking, and I find it really strange. She has a pretty high release point, but I'm not sure how, like I'm a little bit concerned about what that will mean in the future for her shooting and how well she'll be able to shoot consistently.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But that's something that they'll cross when they get to it.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing I was a little concerned about is when, like, just her post up, it's not going to translate that well, as you said. It's just she doesn't have a particularly soft touch. I noticed that in Kalani Brown also. It's just like, I understand you want to go up strong, but like the soft touch is like so important because slamming it off the rim or the backboard isn't really that useful. And then she also wasn't getting double teamed that often in the biggest games. So like against Baylor and Arizona State, like colleges like that with better players and stuff. Mm-hmm. People were not going to her to double team her. So she's not like that dominant. So I think she's going to adjust, but I think Atlanta kind of needs more in the backcourt. So I think she has a good chance at getting a roster spot, but definitely pretty low.
I do think that the one thing I'll say for her post-up game in her favor, and this is true for Kelly Brown too, is that she should be able to punish mismatches and switches.
Yeah. Okay.
That is a valuable skill to have, even if you're not going to throw it in when she's guarded by the starting center on the other, or even backup centers. You won't necessarily be able to hide a smaller player on her.
Yeah, cool. I just wrote that down because I thought that was really interesting. And yeah, so I agree. Like I think she has good foot movement. So I think that she won't she'll do okay on switches. I That's really cool. So did you look into Pivik a lot? I didn't look too much into her because I basically saw her playing and I was like, I don't really see her getting very far in the WNBA. I know she was pretty high on some draft boards and fell all the way to the third round. So, what are your thoughts here with Michaela Pivik?
She's a player who's pretty solid all around, and that was really valuable for Oregon State. But I'm not sure what her like plus skill is and like what she's going to hang on in the WNBA. Decent athlete, but not spectacular. Decent shooter, but not great. Um, Good rebounder for her position, but that's sort of an extra skill, not a needed skill for a guard. Um, so I think it'll be tough for her to make it.
Yeah. Cool. And so, yeah, I mean, she didn't shoot the long ball really at all. She shot like 65-ish every year. Um, and it wasn't like a spectacular number or percentage. I thought that she did a lot of ball fakes like at the 3-point line and then drove. Like she's not taking that many 3-pointers in the WNBA. No one's going to go for that. Like the teams that went against her just were like they really were focusing just on her. Like she had to do a lot of production on her own. She was the initiator. She wasn't the initiator of the offense, but like she had to make everything work on that team. I
Mm-hmm.
felt like so if she does make the team, I think she'll have fewer responsibilities. I mean, she
Yeah,
definitely will. So
yeah.
she might be more successful if she only has to focus on one thing. And if I were her, because of her size, I would just be a 3-point shooter. Like that's what she has to do because she's not going to be able to drive like she did in college. She did well with her
Mm-hmm.
driving.
She did.
Really went to the left a lot, but it's just with bigger bodies in there with faster people, it's going to be too. I think it'll be a little bit too tough, but she could surprise me. Anything else on Pivik you want to say?
Um,
You don't have to.
well, I'm overall somewhat skeptical on why the WNBA has a third round draft because so few players actually end up making it,
Yeah.
and it ties them to a specific team. I do think that she is in a position where Atlanta has some space. So, most other teams, there's even their second round picks are going to struggle to make the team. Whereas the way Atlanta's roster is set up, if she can, show enough, she has a shot that others don't, which I think is interesting.
Yeah, I think that she does have a little bit of a shot. I mean, she was also projected to go way earlier in the draft, so it's possible, that if you just happen to fall, like it kind of, maybe she does have that chance. But we'll see. So let's talk about the real fun of Atlanta. And let's talk about the offseason moves or free agency. So I'll just go over what happened real quick. So Alexis Jones, they got her some, waving thing. They got her, whatever. There was no trade involved. They got her. Great. I don't know what contract she's on right now. Let's see. She is Alexis Jones, 68,000. I don't know how many years, but that's okay. So Alexis Jones, and then they have I lost my spot. Oh, okay. Then they got so basically now we're talking about the with the trade with LA. So they acquired Kalani Brown, 57K for Kalani Brown, for Brittany Sykes and Marie Gulich. And they got in return, ooh, I don't know. Did they get any like picks for that? For Kalani and I don't know. Maybe I got that wrong. Well, they got Kalani Brown. They lost Brittany Sykes and Marie Gulich. And then they signed Glory Johnson to a 1-year contract at 165K. And then the two big ones here, we got Strickland from the Sun, 175 two-year contract, 170K, 175,100 next year. The extra $100 is important because it's a 3% increase. I did the math. Are you proud of me?
Yes.
Yeah. And then, so we got Strick, and then Courtney Williams in that three-way trade. So this is a little complicated, but you'll figure it out. So basically, Atlanta got Williams from the Sun. The Atlanta sent over Jessica Breland to the Mercury. The Mercury gave Atlanta the 17th pick in this year's draft, so 2020. The Mercury sent over Breon January to the Sun, along with their second round 2021 draft pick. I look at it, the reason I have my hands going all these ways, because I'm looking at the map of like Atlanta's down here, and then like Mercury's in the west, and the Sun's in the east. So I don't know. And so basically, Courtney Williams is on a 2-year deal also at 185K and 190K for the next 2 years. And she's the highest paid player on the team. So just to run that down again, Alexis Jones is new, Kalani Brown is new, Glory Johnson is new, Courtney Williams, and yes. Did I say Strickland?
And Shakina Strickland, yeah.
And Shakina Strickland. Ooh, that was a hard one. So I'm really excited about those last three, and actually kind of into the Kalani trade too. I think Kalani's going to get more playing than Marie Gulich will. I think she's just, Marie didn't add anything new that, Breland and Williams had, I thought. Maybe a little bit more shooting, but like she's a very similar player. But I think Kalani's just bigger, and that'll might be a really great asset if she can get it to work. So where do you want to take this exactly? Like, do you want to talk about Atlanta's new? No, you know what? Let's say, this is the way I'm viewing it. Mostly is that I see Courtney Williams coming in at the 2 for Tiffany Hayes, right? Mm-hmm. Brittany Sykes. I didn't mean Brittany Sykes. So kind of that wing position. Courtney's coming in for Sykes. And then you get Glory for Breland at the 4 position. And then you get like Strickland as a 3 coming off the bench instead of Nia Coffey. That's a little bit how I'm viewing this. What do you think that like the new plan is? How do you think the newcomers are going to fit in? Why don't we start with Courtney Williams and how she's kind of going to look in this new lineup?
I think she should fit in fairly well. I think particularly if keeps up her 3-point shooting from the playoffs last year. One of the reasons the Connecticut Sun were so able to go so far is because she went from shooting like 1 3-point a game to 3.5 or so, 3 in the playoffs. And I think that's really important. If she's willing to keep up moving some of her long 2s back to the 3-point line, that'll open up space for Tiffany Hayes to slash and for wood centers, Kalani Brown, whoever to finish at the rim. Without that, she's still effective, but I think she has the chance to be able to carry a decent Atlanta Dream offense.
Yeah, I think she's going to bring a little bit more spacing compared to Brittany Sykes.
Oh, yeah, a lot more.
I mean, if she can get that 3-point percentage up. Brittany Sykes wasn't shooting that much from the mid-range. She was really going to the basket a lot. Her and Hayes, for guards, they were the 2 guards that went to the basket and finished in the restricted area the most. And weren't particularly effective or efficient, I should say, which is kind of not totally their fault. I don't think there was enough spacing in general, but I think, So Courtney is definitely an improvement. I think people are really talking about these issues. We can talk a little bit about the front court here. Is that the back court? Whatever. The point guards one, with the guards. The shorter one. Back court. For some reason, I always get it mixed up, and sometimes I don't, and then other times I can't remember which one's which. It's really embarrassing, haha, when you do it live. So talking about the backcourt, there's some talk about there being issues with Courtney Williams, Hayes, and Carter all being there in the backcourt. What are you thinking with these combinations? Either with two of them combined or all three of them combined. I mean, I don't even think Carter's necessarily going to start. So whatever, take it away. What do you think about this?
Something I meant to mention about Carter was that she seemed a much more better shooter as a spot up shooter. It was her; she tended to take some off the dribble threes that were very difficult, and so I think that with Courtney Williams, with Tiffany Hayes, if Carter can provide enough off ball shooting to at least keep the defenses semi honest, I think it should work out quite well between them. All three can get to the rim. Tiffany Hayes isn't particularly good shooter, but she's a pretty willing shooter, and that matters because, which we'll get to more with Gloria Johnson. I think the willingness to shoot can sometimes, particularly in the regular season, matter as much as the actual percentages, since you force teams to honor you to a degree. So I think it should work. I think both Courtney Williams is a good defender. She is able to defend up bigger players pretty effectively. I think Kennedy has that potential as well. So I think on court it has the potential to be really good, assuming they can sort of figure out, a pecking order.
Yeah, I agree. Like it's just the issue really is everyone wants the ball. Like they are all great with the ball in their hands, and it's just like distributing those minutes in a smart way is the big question here. But like what's so bizarre to me, if Carter is coming off the bench, let's just say that like for the beginning of whatever season we have, that's replacing like Alex Bentley coming off the bench. I mean, that's obviously an upgrade. Then you have now you have Hayes and Williams together. Hayes and Courtney Williams, just to be clear, instead of Hayes and Sykes. I think that like Hayes and Sykes had too much overlap. I felt they were two similar players, very athletic, going to the rim, and then had no one to kick out to except for Renee Montgomery. So to have Courtney there, who's better than Sykes and Tiffany Hayes at shooting mid-rangers. I mean, she's one of the best in the league. Close up there with Dupree. Like she's stretching the floor in that way because neither of the other two are great from the mid-range in Sykes and Hayes. So she's stretching it, and if she can get that three-pointer, great. That's even better stretching. And, she's not going to the hole as much as Brittany Sykes. So it's going to give Brittany Sykes more of this, like that space that she needed last year that she couldn't take.
Hayes, you mean?
Hayes, yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
So Hayes will be able to take that space. Yeah. Exactly. That, Sykes was needed also because they were just playing a similar style. So.
Yeah. Yeah, I think Williams the thing about Williams though was like last year during the regular season, her percentages were really, really, really good from three. She just barely took them. And so that was really frustrating. It wasn't like Candice Dupree or somebody who doesn't take the threes because she's not sure she's going to make them. That's why it was so gratifying when she started taking more threes in the playoffs. Her percentages didn't fall by very much, and it just was, three is worth more than two. Yes. It was just really useful. And I really hope she keeps that up because I think Tiffany Hayes' finishing at the rim was a lot better in 2018, and they didn't even have that much spacing on that team, before Angel McCutcheon got hurt and then after. So I think she has a chance to, bounce back.
Yeah, and she just and like now she has a little bit more that she can kick out to, especially if she's on the court with Renee and Glory and with Shakina Strickland. There's just more. Yeah. There's more shooting, so I think Atlanta did a great job. Yeah. So I'm really not. I don't know why more people weren't talking about the Sykes and Hayes kind of overlap, and just how like they're repetitive kind of. So I'm just like really surprised we never talked about that. And additionally, I don't think Carter is going to be driving as much in the W. Obviously, she's not going to be doing as much as she did in college. But even in college, like what made me say that, I think she's going to rely a lot more on her mid-range and develop a better three-point shot, is because she didn't have a great free throw rate in college. So she wasn't really getting to the line that much and drawing that contact. And so without doing that in college, I have a hard time seeing that develop more in the pros if it didn't happen earlier. It doesn't mean it won't happen, but
Yeah, foul drawing is a skill though, and so I hope that I would be interested to see if she's able to develop that as like a skill in and of itself. Certainly
interesting.
wouldn't be the first like a sort of athletic young player to sort of focus on that, because she will be a lot more efficient if she is able to draw more fouls
Absolutely.
at the pros. So I can't wait to see. And I do think the other thing about Carter, I do think that you said she's an upgrade on Bentley, and I agree. But that point guard is probably the hardest position for young players to figure out how to play. And so while I'm very excited for Carter's long term, I think if we look at like Kelsey Plum, who really had some ups and downs, but was kind of finally last year in the playoffs becoming the player people thought she could be.
Yeah.
I do want to pump the brakes a little bit on her. Carter's rookie year could be rough, but that doesn't mean she won't be really good in time.
Right. And that's something that I'm a little bit concerned about, because how does she really, like with Courtney Williams and Shakina Strickland, they only have the 2021 and 2022 contracts. So, Atlanta's got to win by 2022. That's must be the year that they're looking at, unless they can, fit them under another contract later. With Glory Johnson, I mean, Gloria Johnson's only here 1 year, so we'll see. Do they have time to wait to develop?
They should.
I don't know. I mean, because it took Kelsey Plum 3 years, right? She was 2017,
yeah.
So
yeah.
I mean, she won't be a third-year player by 2022. So
yeah.
No, she is a third year, but whatever. They're off their contract, so.
Yeah. Well, Courtney Williams is only 26. She's still young, which is one of the reasons I like that contract. So I think that if they decided to keep her and re-up, she can keep going. And I think like Glory Johnson and Strickland are good, but they're replaceable. I really think the ceiling on this team is going to be determined by Kennedy Carter. I mean, that's going to be who.
Ooh, that's a hot take. I think that I don't think Strick is necessarily replaceable. I mean, Atlanta has had a really hard time getting 3-point shooters. I remember listening to an interview of Nikki Collin talking about, I remember exactly where I was when I was listening to this podcast actually. But I remember Nikki Collin being like, I can develop anyone into a 40% or a good 3-point shooter. And and this was fall of 2018. And then, she took a lot of her team took a lot of threes in 2019 and was not successful. So, I don't think you can necessarily develop everyone into a 3-point shooter. Maybe she was exaggerating. I don't know. But, yeah, that skill is at least to some extent innate. And yeah, you got to work on it, obviously. But, I think Strick is a great steal, obviously, but it'll be hard to find someone like her.
The other thing for Strickland is that she's good size. She's 6'2", and
I find that hard to believe. I mean, I'm sure it says that, but
as long as they're all consistent. But I mean, she looks pretty when you watch her play. And shooting and height tend to age well. She does struggle with her foot speed on defense, but that really only becomes an issue if you get to the semifinals of the playoffs. Before then, it definitely was rough in the finals. They were sometimes going to Bria Holmes, which was interesting to get more speed on the floor.
Yeah, yeah.
That shouldn't be an issue for Atlanta because they'd be lucky. They'd be glad to make the playoffs.
Yeah. So let's go on to your question about, we'll get back to, just to stay on Strickland, but I want to answer your question about, can she be at the 4? Can Strickland play the 4? If they go with a small lineup, I'm guessing is what you're kind of getting at with this question.
Yes.
I think offensively, sure. Defensively, I'm a lot more concerned. against other teams. I think it depends if she's coming off the bench. If she's playing against first year fours, Holmes, or even just younger players like Phoenix's Elena Smith or Turner, or things like that. I or Jess Shepard in Minnesota. I think that she'll have a chance just because she has more experience. And what I have noticed is like rookies just get destroyed in this league. They just get eaten alive for at least some time. So I think she could. I think she could do it there, but I would be a little bit concerned, for any other situation really. So
Yeah,
yeah. So
I think I want them to try it. I want to see what it would look like. Strickland has good size. I know you're skeptical of her height, but I think she's fairly tall.
sure.
She's pretty strong. She's a smart player, and obviously at the 4, her lack of foot speed would be less a problem than it would be at the 3. And just her shooting at the 4, if you put if as long as you have enough shooting at the 1 through 3, would just be really hard to stop.
Right.
If you say you had Kaylani Brown rumbling down the lane, finishing at the rim in a pick and roll with Shakina Strickland above the break, it would be really. I want to watch that. I hope they do it.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think it would be interesting to see them play it, her at the 4. Like, that would be fun. Like, I say this all the time. Like, I love fast basketball. I love just like running up and down the court, transitions, and shooting threes. Like, I just want to see that. And like, someone taking people off the dribble, like Simone Augustus, but in her prime. But like, I think it would be hard. Like, if I'm thinking about against Chicago, like she can't go against Jantel Lavender, or if Jantel Lavender or what's her name, Parker is in there, and then against Las Vegas, I don't see that happening, and then Los Angeles is just too big. So there's a lot of teams that it just wouldn't work against. Washington being another one.
Washington. Well, the trouble with Washington is that they do that. They just have better. They do that. They have the same setup with a shooter who shoots on offense and can defend at the 3. They're just Elena Deladon's just taller and better. I mean, it's the same thing with
Yeah.
Seattle. It's
Right.
the same I'm going for. It's just, they're better. But I definitely think in Chicago, I mean, like, yeah, Cheyenne Parker would be able, or Gentle would be able to score some in the post against Shakina Strickland, but then they're going to have to guard her, 30 feet from the basket and
True.
be out of the paint. And I think that the math might work out in Atlanta's favor. We'll see.
Okay. That's I'm a little bit convinced. I like that argument. So well, yeah, I definitely will see, and will tip my hat to you if you're right.
Gloria Johnson is a willing shooter. She's not as good, but she's a willing shooter. So
yeah. So let's go on to let's go on to Gloria Johnson. And the way that I'm sort of thinking about this is she's replacing Breland, which is just like, to me, at least offensively, is just the best thing that has ever happened to Atlanta. Like, it's not even a question. Just I didn't really like what I saw from Breland last year. I mean, I know she had a down year, even defensively, and I got that from the Double Down. Give them credit. So, like, I just don't. It's just such a good trade for them. I didn't like Breland very much. So, what are you thinking here with Glory, and what are you thinking here with Breland? What's your thoughts here at the 4? Or
definitely
5, I guess.
Yeah, at the 4, Gloria is a little bit of a downgrade on defense because Breland was a pretty good shot blocker, rim protector, but not a huge downgrade. Gloria is a good defender. She's really athletic, and I think just if she's willing to shoot from 3 like she was last year, even if she's only making 30, 31, 32% of them, it just forces the other team to honor her. Whereas Breland wouldn't even stand out there. And so I think that it's a better fit for the team. What I meant to mention, actually, I think with Shakina Strickland, what I think the biggest issue is going to be is defensive rebounding. They'd have to watch that. The one thing I would say is that Courtney Williams is an amazing rebounder for a guard, and Hayes isn't bad, and I think Carter has a chance to be decent. So that would be the trick. I think even more than her in the post would be, can they rebound enough?
Yeah,
to
that's
survive her minutes at the 4. I meant to say that, sorry. But yeah, back to Glory
no,
Johnson.
no, you're right. You're right. I
Um,
should have thought of that, but that's a really good point. Yes, back to
uh,
Glory.
I think she's a good fit. I think she played really well for Dallas last year. Um, and so I don't know that she's, a long-term solution. She's 29, so not, and relies a lot on her athleticism. So, but for now, for this year,
Right.
I think she's good.
Yeah, I love Glory Johnson. I think that she's got one of the most beautiful shots in the WNBA. I kind of like that sideways shot when one of your legs is a little bit farther in front of the other, or like a good deal, like more than normal. I just love it. I mean, you know what I was even surprised about? Breland still took 38 threes last year. Like, why did that happen? That just seems like way too many. I see that they're trying to stretch the floor, but like, it's what you're saying. She's not a willing shooter. I mean, after she missed a couple, I'm sure she was like, I'm not doing that. She probably wasn't entrusted with it. I'm not even going to say the percentage because it's such a low number, but it's below 30 by a good margin. And and Glory shot 103 last year and was at 34%. So that's she shot really well from behind the arc. And
Yeah.
in the 2 seasons before, in 2018, she shot 54 and 67 in the year before that, both at 31%. So, she still has a little bit of time to prove herself at a higher volume, but I don't hate what I see there. And it's going to be, as you said, really good fit, really good for Atlanta. It's just so good for every team if you just have people who can shoot, as Washington showed us, and just like literally was so good last year. I can't even explain. Like, they're so whatever. I can't talk about it. It's too much.
And from what I can tell, she's a solid defender as well.
Yeah.
She can keep up with faster fours, and is pretty long and has decent size. And so
Yeah.
I think
I really like her, the way that she moves on the court. I think she can keep up with faster players, and she's long enough to be with taller players if need be. She can definitely, like you said, I mean, I'm thinking she would be the 5 in the small lineup where Shakina would be 4. Like, yeah, I think you said that, right? Yeah.
that's
So,
going. I didn't say that. That's going really small.
okay. Well, so you'd have, right. You said Kalani. You said
I
Kalani.
said
So,
Kalani.
yeah. So she wouldn't be at the 5. That would be a little small, but,
It'd be
um,
fun though. It'd be fun though. 5 out as my bet. I mean, there's a reason I made that the name of my website. That would be fun to watch.
yeah,
I just
right.
don't. I just don't know how effective it would be.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, I'm a New York fan, so I'm gonna be seeing a lot of threes and no Ds. So, um, one might say. So, and then Strick off the bench. Oh, I tried to keep Strickland contained, and I still have another thing I want to say about Strickland. Great organization skills, go me. Okay, Strickland. I'm kind of seeing her as a replace. Like it, I think she's coming off the bench. Maybe I would also not be sad if she didn't come off the bench.
Yeah,
Um,
her Hayes at the 3 is gonna be really interesting to see what they do.
yeah. So, but if okay, let's say she's coming off the bench or Hayes is coming off the bench at 3. It's better than what they had last year with Nia Coffey coming off the bench, who they no longer have.
Mm-hmm.
So with Strick, with Glory, with Courtney, all 3 are an improvement. And what I think is the best with all 3 of these things, with at least these 3, I'm not, and with Kalani, I'm not as sure about Alexis Jones, but I think the offense is going to be way more dynamic, and that's going to be
Yes.
a lot harder to defend.
Mm-hmm.
And I think their defense is going to be better because their offense is better. I think what hurt Atlanta in transition so much last year was that they would miss a shot, like because they took so many 3-pointers. It bounces way the heck out somewhere, and then someone can just run for a fast break.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's gonna. I think that if they can put the ball in the hoop more, you can't have a transition really, or it's much harder to have a transition when you have to take the ball out first. So they're going to be so much better. And so there's going to be more spot ups. I think the allocation to pick and rolls is going to be a little bit less. Instead of 34%, it might be 30, 25% of the time, because I
We'll
think
see.
Yeah, we'll see. But what I think is they're gonna use more like Strickland coming off screens.
Mm-hmm.
Um, they're gonna they might have a couple more post ups this year, just because they at least have Kalani Brown, who
Mm-hmm.
isn't great at posting up, but will post up more than like Marie Gulich and Breland. So
Mm-hmm.
I think they might allocate a little bit more of their possessions to that. Then I think they should have way more ISOs too, because you
Mm-hmm.
have
Mm-hmm.
you have like Hayes can do more, I think, now without Sykes
Mm-hmm.
there, and Courtney should be doing ISOs a lot. So there's gonna and Carter can do it too, more so than Bentley. And more spot ups, just because there's more passing gonna be happening to people just hanging out in the corner and can actually hit those. So um, I think it's just going to be a lot more dynamic on the offensive end.
So I think they might. I'll be curious to see if they do cut down on pick and rolls, because part of the reason I mentioned that they're stylistically, it made what they did last year made sense, even though it didn't work, was because I don't think Nikki Collins is necessarily like, I think she's a pretty good coach, and I think that Courtney Williams ran a lot of was the Suns' most effective pick and roll player last year. Jasmine Thomas is really good at it too, but Courtney Williams is good. Kennedy Carter ran a lot of fair amount of pick and rolls with Texas A&M, and I really think that they could still use that a fair amount. And if you have your power forward is able to stretch the floor, whether it's Chloe Johnson or whoever, and then that's the one area where I think Kaylani Brown has an opportunity to be an upgrade, is rolling to the basket and just being a huge target who can catch the ball and finish. You don't want to switch. You're not going to want to switch Courtney Williams, Kalani Brown pick
That's
and
for
roll,
sure.
because then you end up with Kalani Brown with a 6'7" player with a 5'9" guard on her. Or Courtney Williams can roast a center. I mean, either way, it's just not going to be great. So
Yeah.
I think
Um,
it'll be interesting.
I think what that makes sense to me, for sure. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see that. Something that did, I mean, Kalani is a little bit concerning. I'm not really sure how much better she's going to get. I didn't see much there that it was like she's going to get a lot. I mean, it's she's not as good as Tiara McCowan. That's what I'm seeing. Like I don't think she's going to improve as much. I don't think she's as good of a defender. I don't think she's quite as big somehow. She's lefty, which is good, but she's not looking to draw contact as much as Kalani. I don't think she gained as much confidence last year or experience as much as when I said
Yeah.
Kalani before I meant Tiara.
Yes.
Yeah, so she didn't gain as much experience because she was on the bench, compared to how much Tiara was on the floor. I'm comparing them because they're both just 6'7", and we can see their growth together.
Yeah.
So
And they're the
that'll
same
be,
draft. Weren't they the same draft class too?
yeah, both
Yeah.
28, 19,
18. 19,
no,
19,
19,
2019.
yeah, it's
19.
2020 now. So I'm just more concerned about what her ceiling is. Um, she didn't look to draw contact. She doesn't have a really nice touch. She just slams it off the backboard a lot. She rushed a lot, and maybe she would have she would have been able to slow the game down if she had had any opportunity to play in LA, but she just wasn't going to. I mean, she actually averaged 13 and a half minutes a game, which I don't know how Derek Fisher found those minutes, but um, I think that I'm not so sure. And on defense, I think she also struggled. It wasn't the worst thing. She wasn't totally getting roasted, but I mean, because she's just so big. But
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I'm not really sure where she's going to be going. What are your thoughts here on Kalani on both sides of the ball?
I think she has the potential to. I thought she played fairly well in limited minutes. I think that the Sparks like to have a lot of centers, somewhat inexplicably. I mean, I know Chene can in theory play the four, but she doesn't shoot much, so she's basically a center. And then NECA can play both, but was probably their best center, but then had to play the four a lot behind Candace. But then Maria Vidiva, when she was with the team, she left for she was, I think, playing in Europe through a part of the year, but was pretty effective. And so Kalani Brown was just behind a lot of other centers. And so I think with Atlanta, where it's basically she's presumably behind Elizabeth Williams, or I think she has a better shot. She shot 58% at the rim last year, which was quite a bit higher than Elizabeth Williams did, which was at 51%. And so 58 is not great. You'd rather, like, the elite centers in the league are generally closer to 60, high 60s. But I thought that she has potential, particularly if she's in a more spread out system, to be able to finish better at the rim. I do think that the big question for her is going to be defensively. How does she handle? Because I think opposing teams are going to just try to run her into pick and roll after pick and roll, and for it make her guard in space and make her move her feet. Which is going to be because she's a decent shot blocker and rim protection when she gets where she wants to be. So that'll be the real something I'm definitely going to be watching if she gets more playing time. She did flash an interesting 18-foot shot a few times and had surprising like a real kind of a set shot
on a pick and pop. I was surprised.
Surprising success on it, but on very low attempts. So it would be really interesting if she could hit that occasionally, but we'll see.
Yeah, that would be really good for her. I made a tweet about this earlier today, but I was watching her, and I was watching her against Liz and just all these other centers, and I was like, dude, I do not want to play the center in this league. It just is a freaking war zone. So cool. We have gone a long time, and I'm not done yet. So who do you think the starting five is here?
I
can also go first.
I think it's probably going to be Renee Montgomery, Courtney Williams, and then I don't know who the three is. Flip a coin between Hayes and Shakina Strickland because they're both good, and Shakina Strickland's your second highest paid player. It'd be interesting to have her come off the bench.
Yeah.
And then Glory at the 4 and Elizabeth Williams at the 5.
Yeah. I have Renee, Courtney. I put Hayes, but I could obviously be convinced with Strick, Glory, and then Williams. Strick would be awesome coming off the bench. And Hayes would also be awesome coming off the bench. I'm not so sure, though. I think there might be a little bit less running into each other with Hayes and Courtney if they're not on the floor as much together, but they're going to see minutes on the court together regardless. So
I think you definitely that they should stagger Courtney Williams and Tiffany Hayes' minutes a bit, even if Tiffany Hayes starts, because then you have a shot creator for the second unit, because that's the one area Shakina Strickland isn't really able to generate. And you're not going to give her the ball and ask her to create a shot.
Right.
Running off screens, she can, but
right. Who do you think is going to make the team? So there's 16 people on the roster. So you need to cut 4. And to me, I think the first 9 are pretty obvious, so I'll list them here. Got Carter. I'll count on my hands. Carter, Billings, Hayes, Montgomery, Elizabeth Williams, Courtney Williams, Glory, Strickland, and Kalani. So that's 9. The other people you have 7 more. You must have 7 more if there's 16 people. Alexis Jones, Babkina, Brewer, Cazorla, Dietrich, Pivic, and Kobe Thornton. I think so. For those last 4 spots, you got 7 people. I don't think it really matters though. They're not going to get very many minutes. I think it's going to be the top 9 who are going to see most of the minutes, and they're not going to go any deeper than that. But if you were to choose, who would it be? Sorry, I know that list is kind of hard to remember, but.
Yeah, so I think that we talked about we didn't cover Kobe Thornton for a reason. So it's skeptical that she makes the team. Blake Dietrich is a hardworking player, but doesn't shoot very well. And a couple years ago, had her shot blocked more often than she made attempts in the restricted area, which wasn't a great sign. It was on, and then Pivic. I think she's interesting, and I think she has a shot more than most third rounders. But if I was forced to choose, I would say she, just based on how a few third rounders make their teams, I don't think I would probably cut her. And then the other interesting point is depends on if international players make it over. If Babkina makes it over, she's an older point guard. I think she's 31, who shot well from three. She shot like 40% in the Turkish league, and so I think she has a shot as a backup. But I don't know that she'll want to come over.
Yeah.
And then same with Cazorla, who's in Spain. So then I guess it'll be either, so if Babkina comes over, that'll be interesting. But then I think it's down to Cazorla or Jones. So Thornton, Dietrich, Pivic are out, and then either Maite Cazorla or Alexis Jones. I think I would lean towards keeping Jones, Alexis Jones. She's a better shooter so far. I mean, Cazorla might turn it around. She had great shooting numbers in college, and it was very low attempts last year. So it's possible she'll turn it around. But based on their production so far, I would cut Cazorla and lead towards Jones.
Yeah, I mean, I could be convinced of that. I think they keep Brewer just to give a little bit more size, a little bit more depth there. Maybe they don't even need that, but I think it's cool to take a little bit of a risk. They got 4. They got Glory, Billings, Williams, and Kalani. So
yeah,
maybe they want a 5th kind of player there. Cool. So yeah, I also agree. Carter's coming off the bench, at least for the first couple of weeks or whatever we end up having. And I'm really excited about Billings. That's what I'm super pumped about. I think that she didn't get a lot of playing time, and I think she's just really dynamic and can move her feet well and is big. And she should have been in transition all the time. She can finish super well, better than Williams. I just don't understand what the appeal in Williams is. If you could explain this to me, I would love for you to explain why people like Elizabeth Williams so much, because she can't play offense. She can't shoot free throws. It's just bizarre to me. So I must be wrong somewhere and not seeing something.
Williams, I think, is fairly effective. Can finish okay, not great, but yeah, that's definitely her weakness is offensively. But defensively, she's pretty good. She's a good shot blocker. She has long arms and plays bigger than her size. She was really good in 2018 when the Atlanta Dream made the semifinals. Her and Jessica Breland, that team, what got hot after losing. I forgot her name. Angel McCautry, and made a run. And so I think she's good there. Billings is good in transition, but I think we probably diverge more on her than on any other player we've talked about. Because when I was looking at the WNBA stats, they have the percentage finishing at the rim. Billings was at like 43%, which was lower than even Williams is at 51. And I am skeptical that Billings is worth. Like, I would rather take a chance on like a Brewer. And I keep Billings around. She's fairly good, but too often last year when she played, she doesn't shoot threes. She's not a playmaker. She passes she almost never passes. And so it often looked like her defender was mucking up the plays for everybody else on the court.
Yeah. I mean, there's reasons why she hasn't started. I just think that she, like, on offense, she looks really good and really dynamic and can do a lot. But she's a work in progress. And I think she's better than these other players. I think that like the other 6 or 7 who are trying for those 4 spots. So
I don't expect her to be cut, but it would be interesting to see if she could handle as a small ball 5. She is 6'4", but doesn't seem to have particularly great length.
She's just really athletic, and that's what's exciting to me. So it's 9 p.m. So we should end this soon, but I just want to ask one kind of fun question. What player are you most excited about? Because I basically just gave it away. I'm most excited about Billings. I'm also excited to see how Courtney and Glory and Strick all work together, but that I can't say both. So I'm going to say I'm really excited about Billings. Who are you most excited about?
So while I was trying to be a good analyst and say Renee Montgomery was likely to start, my heart wants Kennedy Carter to start from the jump, and a
Yeah.
little bit like they played it like Dallas did with Arike Ogunbowale, where they just throw her into the fire from jump. Because in the WNBA, the way to succeed is either to have a top 5 player force a trade to your team or draft a top 5 player. And while that's not likely going to be the outcome for Kennedy Carter, she has a better shot than any of the other players on the team
Mm,
if to get to get that high. And so I'm most excited to see her and see how she pans out and see.
very cool. Cool.
She's,
So you want to tell people where they can find you and what you're doing again, just if they
yep.
weren't there?
Yeah, my name is Peter Kilkelly. Please feel free to follow me on Twitter at 5 out basketball. My link is in the bio for my website where I'm writing twice a week about the WNBA at 5out basketball letters at 5outbasketball.com.
Yeah, cool. Thanks guys for coming to the live stream, and I'll see you next time.